So it's a little bit before sunrise, and I came again to the east side of the park here. And yesterday was a very productive day. Shooting 8 sheets of film in one day, that's a lot. I'm really hoping that I got something out of that. I was up pretty late last night, loading new film in the film holder, so I'm completely stocked again, which is great. It's looking like it's gonna be a pretty awesome sunrise. There's some pretty cool color showing. But this isn't the sort of thing that I'm really able to take a picture of just because I don't have a subject. It's kind of hard to work with the camera when it's dark. But just being able to enjoy it without the pressure of having to take a picture of it is actually kind of nice. I'm gonna wait a little while before heading back into the washes. My plan for today is to further scout and see what other subjects I can find. But I don't really like heading down into the washes in the times before sunrise or times after sunset, because this is where mountain lions live. There really have never been any incidents here, but the times before sunrise and after sunset, that's some of the prime hunting time for these big cats. And I really just don't want to put myself in a position where I'm on their dinner plate. So it's easy enough to wait until there's a little bit of light, then head back in there, and we'll see what I find today. So I've spent the morning kind of wandering around here on the east side, just trying to find some more subjects. And I definitely have my eye set on some of the maples because the color is just so, it's just so out of this world. And there's some red maples like the one you see back behind me here. And I'm trying to find a way to isolate that maple up against a sandstone cliff, but have it where it also stands out and it doesn't really blend in. It's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. But by sort of climbing up a little bit on one side of the wash here, I get a view across the other side, which is kind of similar to something I did last year on one of the photos that I shot. But it's so calm and it's so quiet here right now. Just kind of relaxing, taking breaks every now and then. And it's really important to just be really aware of your surroundings, because if I'm just hiking through this area, I'm gonna miss out on a lot of stuff. But by just kind of sitting here relaxing, just listening to the sounds of the birds and everything like that, you kind of start to notice things a little bit differently. So love it here. So I'm spending some time going up this really narrow side canyon from one of the washes. It's completely chaotic here. All the trees are well past fall color, but you gotta look. You gotta check out everything, cross everything off the list, because you never know what you're going to find around each corner. I don't think I'm going to have any subjects up here, but I won't know until I check it all out. Sheep. So I've spent several hours today so far just wandering these washes, and I've got a couple good leads on some shots. They're not quite ready yet, but if we get the right conditions, they might be pretty good. But I've just been kind of scanning the washes, looking up, looking down, looking in front of me, look behind me, and just trying to find just that right subject. We got overcast skies right now, which is really not ideal. I mean, it's certainly good for shooting stuff on the ground. It's good for taking pictures of the leaves on the trees, but it's not a very exciting light. And if the sun comes out, and if some of these areas are in the shade, but the light source is coming from a cliff face nearby or something like that, that's when you get the light and it gives it really a really strong sense of depth. And so it's good to do the legwork now while it's not really super shootable conditions, but there's supposed to be some wind coming in a little later today, and that's definitely going to do a number on this side of the park. But thankfully, at least one of the photos I have my eye on is one that involves stuff on the ground, so wind might even help that shot, get some more leaves on the scene. But I'm gonna keep taking a little break here, and then continue my hike along the wash and see what else I can find. So I went back to the truck and got my camera, because I found a scene that could potentially, possibly work. One of the things I wanted to find going into this trip was a scene of a maple and kind of flaming colors up against some pine trees. I just love that color contrast. And I found a scene that it's not exactly what I was looking for, but it has many of the elements I think would work pretty well. And sometimes people ask, you know, why don't I just hike around with my camera at all times? Why do I hike around without it and go back and grab my camera? Well, if I'm hiking with this thing on my back all the time, I'm gonna be a lot less likely to do as good of a job of scouting as I really should, because I'm gonna be, might be some hillsides I may not want to climb. So if I travel light, find shots, and go back and grab my camera. That strategy doesn't work for everywhere, but for this part of Zion, it certainly does. So I went ahead and set up a composition. It's a pretty straightforward composition of the scene you see back behind the camera there. And basically that one sort of reddish orange maple, I want that to anchor the scene. Otherwise it's a relatively dull scene. Some evergreens, though, you get this nice color contrast between the orange and the green. But it's a very flat light, as you can see. It's very overcast right now. And I don't have a ton of high hopes for this scene, but I figure one sheet of film is just fine for it. I did find that if I go on the back of that tree over there, I can get a different angle with the sandstone as a background. So I'm gonna go over there and see if I can get that shot next. So I packed up my camera, and now I'm basically moving about 200 feet across to the other side of the wash to set it up again. It's easier to do that than to try to carry it when, you know, it's on the tripod. It's really unmanageable, especially if you're crawling through bushes and stuff like that. But it does take probably about 20 minutes to put it all away, and then a similar amount of time to set it up again. But in the time I've recorded this video, I've almost walked from the first location to my second location. By the way, there's a tree from a different angle. Not the one we're shooting, but pretty decent angle. I'm gonna climb up to this ridge and see if I can find a composition. There it is there from a different angle. See if I can find a shot. So I went ahead and set up a composition. Basically, I'm just framing the tree there, nothing really special about that. I'm trying to avoid that ledge up top because it adds a kind of a distraction up top. But I'm using the 600mm lens, which means I have a really, really long bellows draw. And I measured to make sure that I'm not needing any sort of extra time for extending them too much. But with a 600mm lens and photographing a tree that's maybe 30-40 feet away, the sandstone wall back behind it is never going to be in focus. And so I figured, why even bother trying to make it in focus? So I'm using f14. So I'll show you my meter here. So we got f14 at 1/4 of a second. So I'm kind of curious how this is going to be, because this is one of the first times that I've done a deliberately shallow depth of field, other than the selfie, of course, but that was obviously a far more important photo. After taking those photos, I got my camera all packed up, and now I'm gonna head back to my truck, drop off my camera, and probably go to a different location to continue my scouting. This is probably it for the shooting for today, but you never know. Here in January, I took a photo here at the Towers of the Virgin, and to take that picture on large format, basically I have a hard time setting up the camera before sunrise. You just can't see the ground glass, so I set the camera up the day before, and then I went ahead and put 3 rocks on the ground. And those 3 rocks marked exactly where to put each tripod leg, so I can show up the next morning, put my camera on those rocks, and then I was all set to take the photo. Everything was all pre-focused, all the movements were all set. Anyways, those rocks, they were still there when I came back during August. And I'd mentioned to Alan Brock, because he said he's going to be shooting a sunrise here at the Towers of Verdure, or at least watching a sunrise. I gave him the challenge to see if he can find those 3 rocks. He said it took him about 2 minutes, and also said that he left a little something under those rocks. So I'm gonna go check out and see what's there. Large format fortune cookie. You shall expose many sheets of perfectly composed film. Also, the wind will remain calm while the shutter is open. Lucky numbers: 8, 10, 4, 5, 6, 17. It's pretty awesome. Thanks, Alan. If you love this content and want to help support my journey, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel, telling a friend, or sending a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year with PayPal or Patreon, and depend on the generous support of people like you to produce this ad-free content. For more information on how to support me, please visit the donations section of my website. Thanks in advance for your support.